Good morning, everyone. So today we have a very special person with us. We have a special session which will be taken over by Eshani Anand. Okay. See, she has secured a rank of All India rank of 79 in UPSC 2023. Okay. So today's session is going to be about her experience with the UPSC exam. Okay. So she has been associated with us for the last 4 years. So she was with us from 2020, and we will directly learn from her, her experience, UPSC experience, her preparation strategy, her unique preparation strategy with respect to prelims, with mains, and for interview. Okay. So I'll directly hand over the session to Ishani and I'll ask her to take over. Okay. So Ishani, you can take over. Yes.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction and welcome everybody. And I'm sure everybody is in different phases or levels of the preparation today. But what we'll discuss today is some basic contours of the exam. And like sir has mentioned, I was with Vikas and Bright Sir for the past 4 years of my prep. And a lot of my insights have actually come from making mistakes, but a lot of them have come from what they have also guided me through the preparation. Um, so this year I've got rank 79 and I had to show a leap of rank from my last attempt. And what I've learned before we begin the session is that you need to be very clear about the mistakes that you have made in past attempts or the sort of mistakes you're making currently also. So the idea is that we try not to repeat the same mistakes in our exam, but we need to understand what the exam is like and what it demands from you, because it is quite easy today to have a lot of material and study from sources, but sometimes that doesn't always translate to success in the exam. So having said that, I welcome everybody once more to the session, and I will talk to you a little bit about my experiences and some things you need to keep in mind for the exam. So starting with prelims, 100 questions come in the exam, but we know that 20 to 30 of them are short questions, which we will have through content. And this is what I call static content, which we will be learning through polity, modern history, geography, environment, and I add economics also, because these are related to concepts which we can predict in the exam. And more than 30, there are these 60, 70 odd questions, which are purely based on deduction. And there will be something about the topic you would have read in current affairs or science and tech, but you would be seeing them for the first time in the exam. And the race to cut off is actually impinging on these two plans. You cannot go wrong in static questions at all, such as polity, fundamental rights, modern history. At the same time, you have to stretch your base from static to the dynamic. So dynamic is where you are applying some reduction, some technique so that you're expanding your marks and making it closer to cutoff. So keep in mind, there's a static part to prelims and there's a dynamic part to prelims. Now, first thing that everybody should keep in mind, and you can corroborate this with previous year papers, is that there is a very specific areas of focus. And this is something we all went through in the academy also, the very areas of focus which fall under each topic, each subject. So these are generally those topics which are repeatedly coming in the exam, and these are the broad contours of the paper throughout the years. So whatever be the difficulty of your paper, the areas of focus will never be untouched. For example, in polity, there will always be a focus of preamble, fundamental rights, DPSP. If we talk about environment or geography, there will be a question on tiger reserves, animals, ocean currents, and a lot of these topics. So by and large, it should not be assumed that everything under the sun is questioned, because we can control a little bit of the areas of focus. So this is number one. And as you proceed and see the PYQs, you will understand what I mean by areas of focus. Second thing is, there is something that we all discussed was the examiner mindset. Very interestingly, this is the perspective from the examiner's point of view, because we will be approaching questions using PYQs as to what the examiner had us to focus on. And that's the mindset. It means what is the examiner hiding in these questions and what should we be focusing on? Generally, by and large, the examiner mindset doesn't change no matter how tough the paper is. So I've given very tough prelims and also comparatively simpler prelims, and my areas of focus and examiner mindset did not change at all. So to summarize, as we proceed in, Sir and I, as we all discussed through our mentorship and prelims coaching, we had something we focused on, examiner mindset. It is very clear when you see the PYQs through their wordings, through their focus on some things like act or numerical or the tone of the question, you will know that this is what the examiner wants us to focus on, and we can discard a little bit of the unimportant parts of the question. It might seem a little overwhelming because perhaps some of you have not seen the PYQs or are yet to see the same. But going forth, just keep it in your mind that areas of focus and examiner mindset is something that we will be discussing on. And third most important proven strategy for me was that revision of static is very important. If you have to go back to the same books, the same chapters, the same areas of focus, and start prioritizing a revision in that way. So let's assume you are studying polity and you've completed Lakshmikant and your respective book lists one go. But revisiting it is very, very crucial. And that separated my successful attempts to my not so successful ones. You have to prioritize the important topics from the lesser important ones. And this priority list you will know by looking at the PYQs, looking at the areas of focus. So areas of focus, you will map what the paper is about. And second is examiner mindset. You will start seeing the paper from the examiner's point of view, what they want you to focus on. And until now, I've spoken about revision, going back to your static syllabus. Now, another important plinth is the test series. So a lot of talk happens in the market about the best test series, and it's your choice as to what you want to take up. But the most important test series is one that is very close to the wordings of UPSC. UPSC by and large tries to keep a very average paper, in the sense it will have very tough questions, it will have very simpler questions also. I had followed Umbrella Academy's question and test series throughout my prep. So I thought it was very close to my real exam as well. And the wordings have to be very similar. A good test series should have similar wordings, should have difficulty level as per the UPSC paper, and equal priority to the areas of focus. So test series is very crucial, and you can start studying your subject-wise test series. You can do it in the beginning. That's how I began. I started subject-wise. I would do polity, modern history, and then I moved on to full test series. Full test series are very important because they are like your rehearsal for the real exam. And with Sir, we had done about 5 to 6 before the real exam, and I had completely relied only on them because I told myself I will focus on one structured test series, which I will replicate in my real exam. So test series is also something that has to factor in your preparation. And fifth is the analysis of your tests. It is not important that you just see what is right, what is wrong, and leave the analysis for a later date. You have to see the questions where you went wrong and where you went right as well. You need to understand what was the thinking process, the pattern of thinking. Where did you focus on? Did you make a mistake because you did not know the fact to a particular issue? And you need to analyze if you're going wrong in static and very easy questions, or are you still maintaining difficult questions? Are they going wrong? Because in this exam, and I have made that mistake before, that in my unsuccessful attempts, I had made mistakes in very simple questions also. So the analysis has to take equal importance in your exam as the real test series also. And in my journey, I had my test series sirs would evaluate it and they would let me know where my thinking went wrong. And that is, reaching out your mentors is a very essential step in analyzing your test series. The next point I wanted to talk about is the mentorship. So there was a debate as to coaching, if it is important or not, and that is your personal choice. But in this exam, what helped me was learning from the experience of others, my mentors like Vikas and Bright Sir, and how they would coach me through the exam. It is very crucial that you can exchange your answers, exchange your test series, exchange whatever you have done with them, and then they guide you through the process. my conclusion is that you can take a lot of guidance from online, but it also tends to confuse you a lot because everybody has their own way of the exam and everybody has their own experiences. But somebody who gives you pointed understanding of what you should do and not do in the exam matters a lot. So mentorship is also something that helped me a lot in the exam, and it was a pivot in my preparation. And the next point I want to talk about is current affairs. So there is a lot of material in the market, and everything under the sun generally is in these magazines. But it's a waste of time if you go line by line into every topic and then you try to rote learn everything, because the exam is not testing your rote learning skills, but it's testing a lot of your deductive skills. So use of current affairs, from my experience, number one was to get a general idea of the way things are functioning in the world. What is a new technology, or how is the parliament functioning, or how is the economy today? And this general sense you have to understand. You cannot study topics as islands. You need to connect them, interconnect them, and try to make a very vast map of the way world is functioning. So do not look at current affairs like a very big chore. If you see the newspapers or if you read current affairs magazines, then it's important to analyze the topics and get a very general sense of what is happening in the world. This is point one. And second thing under current affairs is that when you take a news, when you see something in the news, you need to map it to the areas of focus. What I spoke about in the beginning. Is it a topic that keeps getting repeated? Is it a topic that is too minute to study, too minute to mug up? Not every forum, not every military exercise is actually asked in the paper, but you need to map it to areas of focus and see the relevance of this. And if it's a struggle in the beginning, Vikas and Bright Sir can help you with the relevance of every topic, and then as you start studying, you will automatically know. So in your mind, until now, if you're noticing, you're forming a very big world of UPSC itself. You know the areas of focus, you know the examiner mindset, you know the current affairs which are about to come, and then the preparation becomes much easy. Uh, as you progress, you need to start culling out things which are not necessary for the exam. Because very few people succeed for the exam if they have multiple sources, if they're focusing on too many topics at the same time. If you have the fear of, if you have FOMO, or if you have this anxiety that I'm forgetting some topic, I have to study everything under the sun without revision, these are some mistakes that you should not do. Moving on to what you should do in the exam. Now, let's imagine that you're going for prelims. You have 2 hours. Now, the mindset for those who haven't given the exam is a lot like this. 2 hours will go very quickly if you are very stressed. If you are not focused question by question, or if you don't have a set strategy, then you cannot clear, because 2 hours seems very less. And I have also made that mistake before. So in successive attempts, along with the help of Sir, they helped me understand how to go about the paper. So in the exam, a strategy that I followed, and a lot of people do it, is called through multiple readings. One reading is you read the entire paper 1 to 100. Now with the first reading, you start picking up questions which I mentioned in the beginning are static, doable, and should be correct. So in the first reading, you're marking all those questions which you know exactly, such as polity or modern history, and they should be accurate because you are locking a definite set of marks which you should get. Now, the second reading is a little more tricky because this is where you will be doing a lot of your dynamic questions. Those questions which are, maybe you've seen it for the first time, or maybe your knowledge is halfway, and something of that sort. And this is where I was guided by Sir through using the elimination techniques. In these techniques, we are applying the examiner mindset, what I spoke about before. If I look a question in the prelims, I will understand, has this come in the paper before? And what was the focus of the examiner then? And how will I analyze it now? Will I apply my current affairs knowledge or my prelims knowledge or something of that sort in this question? One thing you need to know is that if you don't know the answer to some question, high probability that a lot of others will also not know. So here you need to simply deduce and remove two options which are not correct at all. In the second reading, we are trying to do a probability based deduction. You have to surrender the fact that I should get this accurately correct, because we are not trying to mark the exact correct answer. It is impossible if you don't know anything about the question. So we try to find a probability of what is possibly correct. And then we wait for the results and see if it's right or wrong. But in those 2 hours, the elimination, the deduction only comes to your mind. And it is okay to not know the answer completely. So this sort of this exercise, we will do it for those questions where we don't know the answer. But for those questions we short know, we will be applying our strategy of revision. So this is what we can control in the exam, and the dynamic part is something we cannot control. So this is a little bit a purview of what you can do in the examination. Now, next thing I wanted to talk about is the CSAT paper. Now, there has been a lot of debate about CSAT being tough or hard, and over the years, the fear of CSAT has also increased. And so given multiple attempts, I can tell you that I did not change my strategy for CSAT at all, if it was an easy or hard paper. I had taken classes at Umbrella and Bright Sir, and the strategy is very simple. Important topics of PYQs you will have to prioritize and start learning the formulae of those topics, and maybe practice that in the beginning. Then we did PYQs of papers such as 2015, 16, and try to time them. And the logic of CSAT is that we need to do questions where we know the answer will be right, because it is either maths related or English related. So in my strategy for CSAT, I would immediately flip through the pages and latch onto the questions I knew I could immediately do. And I knew I wouldn't be spending more time in them. And there may not be many in the beginning, but like I said, you get a store of marks where you're going to get like good marks, and then you can try more questions. So you have to have a smart strategy where you are fishing through the paper, finding topics of ease and quickly finishing it. And that confidence comes right now, where you are prioritizing important topics and practicing them currently. Now, the last point I wanted to talk about is a little bit on your mental health and resilience. So it is very natural to feel confused, to feel very stressed, to not have good direction, to feel like the work or the task is not completing, to worry about competition. We all have our own issues with the exam. And it is completely okay if you are feeling overwhelmed, because the nature of the exam is such. But I personally feel that if you have a lot of patience, then you can go very long in the exam. And it is prudent to enjoy the process than expect results immediately. So patience is one thing I would expect, and it takes you much farther in the exam. And the second thing, as I've always mentioned throughout this, is that we try to control only what we can in this exam. We cannot control the difficulty of the exam, the sort of questions that are coming, the only options or ABCD options, or the competition, or how many seats are there. But we can only control PYQs, revision, test series, analysis, and reviewing our mistakes. So have this clarity that I will do what I can do, and I will use my time only for the process, and the result is not in my hands. Every day it's good to regurgitate this idea, and then if you continue with the academy, then definitely sir will help you through most of the process. A lot of my learning has come through guidance with Sir Vikas Sir, Bright Sir, and I'm truly grateful for them. And I hope that we can still continue to help you on your journey. And thank you everybody for your session today. If you have questions, we can take them at the end of the session, or I give it to Bright Sir now.
Yeah, Ishani, you can take in their questions. But before you take in their questions, if you can show some insight into the mains part of it also, right? The mains program that is there. So if you
Yes, sir.
can talk about your preparation, how you prepared, your optional strategy, what was it? Okay. And then I'll let the students also join in, and they can talk about they can ask their doubts. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So the main stage comes 3 to 3 months after the prelims, but the preparation for main starts much prior. And while you start preparing for UPSC 2025, for example, you should be ready with a couple of things, such as book list for mains and the syllabus for mains, and also the optional, which type of optional that you're choosing. And I had taken anthropology, that was my optional. But by and large, the strategy for mains also remains quite similar. We will look at the PYQs, then we will look at the areas of focus, and we will make answers to PYQs, and that becomes our base material. Adding to that, what I did was taking materials from classes and from materials online to keep supplementing this. And I had joined test series as well. And as and when I would send answers, I would be adding more points to them and making the cornucopia of knowledge much larger. So the mains is a very different exam from prelims. Prelims is time tested. It is about elimination. It is about maximizing your scores. But mains is about presenting who you are. And it is about writing a better answer. Presentation and neatness goes a very long way. There is a time constraint in both of them. Time management is key to both, but in the mains exam, you have a little more control over what you want to show to the examiner. And mains is very crucial because a very large chunk of it is for your final ranking. So in the mains, I had started by trying to write answers on my own. I had taken maybe a lot of time in my first few answers. But again, as I sent answers to sir and to a lot of people, I was able to make corrections. But I still hadn't cleared mains in a particular attempt. And after that, we realized that my presentation has to improve. So even though we have the knowledge, we have the notes through prelims, through coaching class material, and through classes, it is not enough to write a very good answer because the presentation has to be important. And by presentation, I mean the first glance at your answer. Even before reading, the examiner should feel something when they see your answer. For example, how neat is it? Can they read points? Have you underlined important points? Can they de-alienate the structure of the answer? If there are three parts of the question, have you answered all three? So presentation goes a much long way because you cannot simply write an answer and then expect good scores. Presentation also includes answering the question exactly. What happens is that we have a lot of knowledge, but sometimes we write whatever we know. And for an examiner who's correcting paper, the same question and many papers, they can easily tell if you have deviated from the question or not. You might be writing it for the first time, but the examiner can easily pinpoint irrelevant information in your answer. So your task should be, if you have good presentation and neat skills, then you should be answering to the question exactly. If they've asked you why, do not write how or what. If they've asked you why, maybe define a little bit and start writing why. Why means you have to write the reasons. So you have to be really clever and very focused when you're answering questions. So this is the strategy broadly for all the GS papers. I will speak a little bit about GS4 and optional. So GS4, the ethics paper, is very interesting because in those 3 hours, there might be questions which are very tough, but you need to write what you feel. So in the ethics paper, my strategy was to take a look at, again, the PYQs and make answers for them. But the interesting point of this is that they expect you to write examples. When you write examples, then it looks a little more argumentative and you're able to convince the examiner that, yes, this is how I answer the question. So you look at the syllabus, it is quite in detail, and every topic you can underline and write the definition of that topic. And then you make a broad structure about the examples under this, and based on PYQs, you will have a lot of information. And then you start writing the test series, and then you will understand what are your issues in this exam. Now, ethics paper is you get 3 hours only, but it's a paper where you cannot keep your pen down at all. It is a time-consuming paper, so you need to time your questions very well. So part A has 13 questions, and each you should not take more than 6.5 minutes. Somehow you will have to push your potential and write the definition, write the structure of the topic, and write examples and conclude very well, and immediately go to the next one. There is no time to rethink what you've written. But if there is any ethical dilemma or any issue, the idea is that you should have a balanced view on topics. And the ethics paper, I had practiced by bifurcating my test series. We would do section A, 1.5 hours for a few weeks, and then we would move to section B. Section B is the case studies section. So case studies have also been small and large, and sometimes they become very wordy in the exam. But we had devised a method in the academy where we would read the questions, underline negative tone like topics, and then we would start thinking along those lines. It looks very tough, but it's actually not a very tough paper because it is very logic based. It is simply based on right and wrong. And it's not hard to choose the right way. So this is why time is an important part, and PYQs. These two are very important plinths for your GS4 paper. And apart from that, looking at examples online, looking at examples from mythology, from the newspapers, from happenings around you, international affairs. These are some topics that make it very unique for you. And something I had also incorporated in my papers was using quotations. So if it is a very relevant quotation, then I would use it in my answers to elaborate to the examiner, this is what I'm feeling. And in my experience, I've understood that there are no rules to the ethics paper. Like there isn't a particular structure that you should write like this, you should not write like this. But in general, you have to argue the topic and write a very balanced view. So as you start studying, as you start seeing examples and toppers copies, you will understand more about what I'm trying to say. So this was the ethics paper. And now moving on to my optional. So I can a little bit in general about the optional paper and moving in specific to anthropology. So optional paper is very crucial to the exam because it can make it or break it. That's how it works because two big papers and it forms a very large chunk of your ranking as well. So optional, you will have to lock an optional very early on in the prep and stick to it. And number two, you will have to be very thorough with the syllabus and the pattern of questioning. Is there a way you can predict the questions? What is the best book list? How many thinkers to write? What should be the time constraint? At least I had spent almost half of my time, a little more than half of my preparation time for my optional, because I knew it is something I needed work on. It was not a subject I had done before in undergraduation as well, but it pays dividends if you work very well for the optional. Exactly, because the effort you put in the optional or ethics paper can translate into good scores as well, and that will differentiate you from others. Anthropology in specific, so it has paper one and paper two. Paper one has a lot of general anthropology and concepts, and paper two is Indian anthropology. Anthropology requires you to again have very good presentation, and you should have all important points as soon as the examiner sees your question. The thinkers, the textbooks, the studies, all of that should be in the paper. And a lot of answer writing practice is needed, which means that even questions which are very simple, you should keep writing at home. What is so and so, and explain this. You should have 2-3 pages of printed UPSC specimen, and you should be writing the answers at home. And that strategy really helped me in the exam. So for optional, and if it is suitable to your optional, you can also do the same, is answer writing practice and repeated revisions. There is absolutely no secret to this exam apart from the fact that repeated revision and repeated practice is very crucial. You need to chalk out time in your preparation and schedule to study in the morning maybe, and then keep the last few hours of the day to revise and just mentally recall what you've studied throughout the day. And just flipping through notes will also help you because the words get concretized in your mind. So study in the morning and maybe allocate a large chunk during the day to your optional and GS4 papers. I had done the same. And in the latter parts of the day, we do a little bit of revision. So I've given you a very broad overview, but I'll touch a little bit on GS1 to 3 as well. So GS3 was a challenge for me because I had worked very hard for the paper, but somehow I wasn't getting the highest scores. And over the past few years, the scores have also been going up and down, even for those who have cleared the exam. And what I've learned is that you need to write keywords to the topics as if you are the economist, as if you are the botanist or the agriculturalist. So GS3 has economy, agriculture, science and tech, and defense. So all these 4 topics, they warrant expert keywords. You do not have to go into research papers or big textbooks, but you need to start culling out keywords from the newspapers itself, newspapers or online, and just mention 1 or 2 keywords in your answer so that there is good rigor in your papers. Especially in economics, without statistics, it is not complete at all. You have to incorporate statistics and graphs, and they cannot be meaningless graphs. They have to show transition or trends, GDP trends, private consumption growth, and all of these things. You should be learning. You should have 15 to 20 statistics in your fingertips about India's industrial growth, agriculture growth, service sector, unemployment rates, women in labor force, GDP growth, forex. A lot of these keywords I'm able to tell because I had learned it myself. So you need to have 15 to 20 such statistics, and they will keep getting repeated in your answers. So I had taken a lot of this from budget and economic survey, and GS3 should have statistics, graphs, and also good vocabulary, the vocabulary of the subject, especially. I will also talk about a little bit of GS2 and GS1 now. So, GS2, a lot of the content we have learned from prelims already because the polity content is quite similar. But there are newer topics like comparing constitution and basic structure. These are purely based on PYQs, and we cannot forget studying Attorney General and a lot of constitutional, non-constitutional bodies of Lakshmikant. So you have to revise a little bit of that for your polity section. And newer topics like comparing constitution also have a structure. In GS2 and all the GS papers, if there is a question you do not know at all, again, it is not checking your knowledge very deeply. You need to have a basic understanding of the structure that I will write. So if you're comparing two very different polities with India, broadly you should know democracy, who is ruling them, who is getting elected, what is the method. So it is not very hard once you start the process of answer writing. And GS2 has international relations, which has 4 questions, which keeps coming in GS2. And questions 9 and 10 and 19, 20, these are GS2 questions for international relations. And generally, they are a little simpler if you follow news, then they become good confidence boosters for GS2 as well. So you can start writing from them in the real exam. I had done that in some attempts, and that helped me get into the flow of writing for GS2 as well. So they are broadly, they are very general. They will ask you India's role in something, what should India do, critically analyze the role of something. You will have basic structure already in your preparation, and that, sir, will help you maybe as you proceed. And GS1 is also quite static. GS1, you need to have content, especially in the art and culture and the modern history. General points in the recent attempts are not fetching good marks. You should have content in the exam. But it's not content that you have to mug up and learn new. It's everything that you've learned already from your Nitin Singhania, from your Spectrum, or from other textbooks. So do not forget that content because now you will be writing it in the examination. If they talk to you about GS1, like role of revolutionaries, we have learned so many of them, Yugantar and so and so and so. And the answer is exactly around what you have studied. And nobody can find fault with a good answer like that. So GS1 is content based, and you need to study NCRTs for geography and history. You already have the textbooks ready. So the task for you will be, can you write a good answer based on the knowledge that you have? And if you have done good revision, it is not tough at all. So this is a bit about the GS and optional papers. And essay, I can also talk about that. So essay paper is a little difficult to predict as to what is, there is no short strategy except the fact that you should write to the topic and you should be very concise and coherent in your writing. What does it mean to stick to the topic? It doesn't mean that you paddle around the topic and try to associate something indirectly, but you're hitting the nail on the target, and that takes some time. Again, sir had suggested that we look at PYQs and we take 15 minutes to write a broad structure. And you have to be very scientific in your essay paper. There are 12 sides to the copy, and you can fit 2 or 3 paragraphs, and you can go with some set dimensions that I will write the definitions, I will write why of the topic or how or what, and conclude in a particular way. You will go with a basic set like this, but do not think you have to stick to this and make both the essays look very similar. But as you practice NCE toppers copies, essay paper, you get rewarded if you are sticking very close to the topic, what the topic is asking, and also if you're coherent and concise. It is not important to write very wordy paragraphs because then the retention gets lost. So even the UPSC guidelines have mentioned that essay, concise, and coherent essays are given scores. So we have, this is the way we can decrypt the essay paper and try to go ahead with it. This is what I had done. I will look at a few queries if there are any.
Yeah, Ishani. So I'll just go through the questions,
Yes, sir.
and any questions which are there, I'll directly ask you, right?
Yes, sir.
One query is from Arundhati. She says, could you suggest me the best notes for anthropology?
Uh, So, anthropology, how I had done it is I did not have one set source of anthropology. I had started with Braintree. I had also, on top of that, answered PYQs and made a set of that. And then I had seen a lot of toppers notes, which they have very graciously given. So I kept adding points from that. If there was an open source research paper, I would add all of that to my notes. Since I had some time working on my optional, I was able to create good notes with me. So I suggest that you create a base, whatever notes you have, because they should have thinkers and researches and all of that. The base should be ready. That is a very good answer. They will give you average scores. But if you want to make that better, you can write more researches. You can go online and type a little bit about that thinker or something that they have done, and also toppers notes. Any topper, for example, there are so many who scored very well in the past and they have Telegram channels, so I taken some help from them. I think Mandar Patki sir is a note, his notes were also making rounds in the past, so if they've opened the notes, you can take a look at that also.
Okay, now Aradhya, see, analysis of PYQ questions and all, we discussed that in the prelim mentorship program. Okay, so we do that analysis part and all. So right now for Ishani, that may not be a proper question, right, to ask. Regarding freshers, okay, Anish has a question. He's a fresher to anthropology. So what should be his strategy? By when should he complete his anthro optional, and when should he start preparing for prelims?
So you are giving 25 attempt is could you just quickly write that if you're giving 25? Because if you're giving 25 and we're in November, see, ideally, the how we begin the cycle is that as soon as we start writing for the exam, uh, anthropology begins in around June to January. We finish at least one round of studying for the paper because it is quite a lengthy, tough paper. And then Jan to March, we are revising, doing test series, and then we stop optional mains completely. March, April, May, Feb, March, April, May, actually, you can do only prelims. You should revise only for prelims, and then prelims becomes the most important exam. So if you're new to anthropology, then I think good 5, 6 months are needed to study the topic. And if you haven't done all of that by now, then you can always continue some topics after you clear prelims also. So it's not a big issue. But I think in paper one, I would suggest you complete because you have theories, you have important topics, and at least give that reading once. But do remember that paper two is more scoring. Paper two has a lot of things which are in parallel with tribal studies, with gender studies, with governance issues. So if you are having time crunch or you haven't followed this schedule, then you can cover a lot of that. But start with paper two in the beginning itself after prelims. So we take 5, 6 months generally to finish one reading of the paper of anthropology and do test series, and then completely stop it for prelims. And then immediately you should start revising anthropology because it is a very content oriented paper.
Okay, so I think that answers your query. So in 20, if you are, as Anish has mentioned, he is going to give in exam in 2025. So then he will have to take in at least, I think you can say at least one paper, paper one or paper two should be complete, right? Before,
Yes, sir.
let's say Jan or Feb, right?
Yes, sir.
That
By
would be a
Jan
strategy
or Feb end, you can still give some more time depending on how comfortable you are with prelims.
with
So
prelims.
continue with optional till Feb, but Feb, half of Feb, start revising prelims and optional at the same time, and then completely let it go. It's okay if you haven't done a lot of optional, you can pick it up after prelims also.
After prelims also. Okay. Then Rishika has a question regarding essay preparation. I think you have already covered it. So that is done. Regarding, see, anthropology coaching and all that is not something that we can say. That is up to you. You find out where the coaching is best. If you feel we also provide the same. So if you feel ours is best, you can join Umbrella Academy, but we will not insist you join only us. Okay, so depending upon who gives the best, you can search for it in the market and you can join accordingly. Aruna, I hope that answers your question. Uh, okay, what was your approach in pre and mains economy? This is Aradhya's question. So economy, I think for mains you have discussed. For prelims.
So I have put economy in the so-called static part of prelims because, as we discussed at the academy also, there are very set topics from which economy is coming, such as money supply, bank rates, capitalism, inflation. So there are 10 to 11 topics of economy which are very important. If it's not your background, you will have to put a lot more effort by looking at textbooks like Vivek Singh, etc. But I had focused on these topics and got the concepts very clear, because in economy they will ask you questions based on concepts. They will not ask you, tell me the bank rate today or tell me XYZ. It's not pointed content. It is based on your concept. So if we increase the rates, what happens to the dollar or to Indian rupee? So this is the sort of question that they're asking, and it is very simple if you have these concepts ready. And PYQs are a very good place to start. And if you smartly see PYQs from 2013 and until 2023, you will realize that these concepts keep getting repeated. So for prelims, I had focused on this economy concepts and mains, as we've discussed. But economy also has a current affairs component, which the budget economic survey helps you, and current affairs also as you're reading online. For example, if there was a very important topic like banking regulation changes, then that was tested in the exam. If something was happening in the US market with treasury bills, then you can keep an attention on that also. But let's try not to fret about prelims. I mean, I didn't want to, because we do think economy has no set textbook, but it's actually not very tough because there are 11 to 10 topics which you can answer. And beyond that, take a look at important current affairs. So demystify economy a bit like this, and it should be easy for you.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Aradhya. So then Akhil Chand has a query that he talks about when he goes to the second reading of prelims, second reading in the prelims paper, he is stuck in few questions and he spends too much time overthinking on the same. Okay, so how would you suggest that he address that issue?
So it is very natural because, again, in second reading, you may not know what to do. If you're not able to understand and if you're stuck in overthinking, you will again leave that question, go to the next one. And then you will club all of these problematic questions in third reading. Now, what happens psychologically is that as your readings are increasing, time is decreasing, of course, but you're also getting a little more brave to push the probability. But the second reading, don't mark things which you have to mark, which you do not know what to do. It is true because you don't know the questions per se. But if you start to overthink, if you don't know kya karna hai us question mein, if it's too tough, you will skip it and you will go to the next one. Don't waste your time marking incorrect questions in second reading also. Come back to the third reading, and all the problematic, tough thinkers will be in that. So if you start stressing much early after the 1.5 hour mark for the second reading, it'll be a big problem. But try this in your coming test. Maybe you can skip immediately. If you struggle with a particular question, skip it and go to the next one. Keep skipping and then come back again in third reading. If third is also tough, leave it, go to the fourth reading. So I had taken at least 4 readings in some attempts because I did not want to stop the flow of right questions. The confidence of one question generally moves on to the next one. So if you start overthinking in one question, you will not feel very courageous to apply logic in the next question. So overthinking begins if you have a lot of doubt, just skip it. You will come back to it, and the back of your mind will be there. So try to do this. Maybe it will help you.
Okay, now another query regarding current affairs. See, again, current affairs classes of other institutes, we cannot comment on the same. Okay, so we'll not do that one. Yes, another query from Shashi Priya, that is, how did you manage your mental health during the preparation? Now, this I think is the most important question. That is, how did you maintain consistency in your efforts also? Okay, so mental health and consistency.
It's a very good question because it is something we can all identify with. Some things I had done first was to have good habits in the sense I would have a daily time of wake up. I would try to sleep early and I would have good diet and just good habits take you a very long way. They make you feel consistent. Subconsciously, you won't know the importance of having good food or waking up on time, but they do play into your daily schedule. If you've read the book Atomic Habits, it says that good habits are good destiny. So if you're struggling with something, you have no solution to it, just start waking up early, sleeping early. Maybe you can eat well and remove food which is not making you feel okay. So I think good habits is something I maintained that helped me keep myself positive in many ways. And second thing is I studied from my city. I lived with my parents when I prepared, so they were a very important support system to me. So whenever I had the time things were working well, I had a good support system. So maybe if you have one or two friends who are not from the circle of preparation, that also helps you a lot. And it is a tough exam, and sometimes it's not easy to do it alone. So have a good support system. And there are so many forums online also where people are putting their views together, and you feel less alone and isolated. So that is one way. And the third thing, I did not let go of a lot of my hobbies. Of course, you don't, can't spend time training for a particular sport, but I did continue to do, let's say, Rubik's Cube or reading about Stoicism, for example. So a lot of these hobbies I kept going, and that helped me a lot. But majorly, you can take up journaling if that helps you. Like it helps you do a lot of self-reflection. It makes you feel like okay, the preparation is worth it, and do not feel again do not feel the pressure that I have to clear the exam in one attempt or two or three. Even if you have, of course, everyone has their own journey, but try to enjoy the journey. Try to feel like yes, if I'm reading about issues in governance, then I'm going to solve it tomorrow. So try to tell yourself that you will be applying this knowledge when you come in surveys, and the pressure of UPSC is very different compared to the pressure in real life, in the real field when you do IAS or IPS or some service. So always tell yourself, if I can handle the pressure now, I can handle it in the real life also. So just few things you can do to keep yourself going.
Yeah, so that's actually a good point. That is, this exam is basically testing you for your real job, right? So if you can deal with the mental health now, definitely you are ready for the job at hand. Yeah, so that's good, right? Then there is one more question. Mahesh Ambati, he's saying, how can one be fresh after multiple attempts? That is, there is inertia to unlearn certain new topics and update on the new content. So how can you do the same? I think that's also a good question.
Hmm.
How can you
I
unlearn?
I can answer this because I have given multiple attempts and I have failed in different levels of the exam. Sometimes some level did not work out. But the only reason I can say that I've got this rank is because I did not stop improving. So if you feel the inertia, tell yourself it's a good opportunity if you have found something to even unlearn. Because it is very tough, first of all, to predict what is working for some people, what is not. But if you can easily see that, okay, this content was not okay, this paper did not work, this method did not work, then if you easily work on these three things, your next attempt will be successful. Because experience in the exam goes a long way. Your body has the memory of sitting through so many papers. So that helps. You're already a little ahead of the competition if you had that experience for yourself. And if you have something to unlearn, it's a very good opportunity. So if you tell yourself it's an incentive for me to go on and move forward, then maybe the inertia will also drop. Perhaps many reasons why we have the inertia is also because we don't like the failure, we get too tired, there is also burnout. So I think a good way to overcome this is to understand what is causing that problem. Is it the fact that you have burnout, your fatigue is physical, or you're not able to find a way out, or something of that sort? So keep working on things that keep your preparation motivated. I do remember that ethics paper, essay paper, and anthropology, after some attempts, I did not let my content play too because I knew I will get bored of reading the same thing myself. So I kept adding some points here and there, some new things I would learn. And it's a different thing if it actually came in the paper or not, but just to keep the preparation a little more interesting, I would do a little more added reading every attempt. So this is how I kept going. But I think one way is to figure out what is causing the inertia. It could be psychological, could be physical burnout, could be a lot of things. But if you have the intent to clear the exam, give yourself some time to overcome that, and it should work out for you.
Okay, we'll take in two or three more questions, and then we'll search, right? So one question that is from Soumya. So regarding optionals and all, I'm leaving it. You can personally ask Vikas sir also regarding the same. Okay. Now regarding one question that Soumya has is, how many questions should you attempt in prelims to get a safe qualifying score?
Okay, so I want to say 80 to 85, but this again depends on your comfort level and how tough the paper is or how easy the paper is. As you practice test series and then you see the prelims paper, you should be able to judge and tell yourself, okay, I will not go beyond 80 or I will go beyond 90. See, if it is a very content-based paper, if you know a lot of questions, then you will push for a little more. If a 20 to 30 questions are well, like the static syllabus is going well, then you can take a little bit more of a risk and do many more. But if you don't know anything absolutely and it's a very tough paper, then you should not be risking very high if you can't deduce. Again, the strategy is this: a very tough paper, if I'm applying the right logic and there is more probability, I will apply more. So I cannot answer what is the right way, what is the number of questions you should do or you should not do. But ideally, going the way papers are, you should be doing little more than 75 to 80. But you can push beyond that based on your elimination techniques and strategy. The key remains that 20 to 30 you should do correctly, your static syllabus, and 30 onwards it's based on deduction. So then you will know which way to judge or not. The logic remains that you should not go into huge negative. That's all the logic is. But as you go in test series and classes, I think you'll get a better idea about what should be the exact number.
Okay, so that I think you have answered. And finally, we'll take the last question. The last question is of Nitin, who says, ki, what was your strategy for time management in answer writing? Okay, so that is it. Did you have time left over in GS papers?
So in the test series, when I had just begun the preparation, I was not able to finish on time. It was always going beyond 3 hours. But as you start practicing, the time will automatically decrease. And as we've discussed in the academy also, the speed in the exam is something very different. You will be motivated to go much faster. But time management, I would have a set number of minutes for every question. For a 10 marker, I would stop writing between 6 to 7 minutes. And for 15 markers, I would stop between 10 to 11. Now, these are it seems like very less time, but only if you tell yourself 6 and 10 minutes, will you finish the paper on time. And finishing the paper is the most important strategy for our mains. So I would keep the watch always, and I would start timing minute to minute. And as soon as I saw that it was going beyond a particular time, I would quickly finish the answer and move on. But don't let yourself get too greedy to write a very good answer and then miss out 20, 30 marks later on, because the reward is very less in that case. Try to practice in a way that you're finishing papers at home also. Do not wait to come 3 weeks before the exam and then push the speed. So as you keep writing answers, always make sure that you should not go beyond 6 to 7 minutes for a 10 marker and 10 to 11 minutes for a 15 marker. So this was strategy for GS papers. Essay papers, generally, we don't have a time problem. We try to do rough work in 15, 20 minutes as soon as we see the topic. And then we continue writing. So there the time is not a very big issue. For ethics, as I've mentioned, 6 minutes should be tops for your 10 markers in part A. In part B, you can take 12 to 15 minutes per case study. Again, it seems like time is too little, but you need to tell yourself, I have to finish in lesser time so that you are able to be very fast. And in the examination, your goal has to be to finish the paper and not let 30 or 20 marks unattended. And for optional paper, it depends from optional to optional. But similarly in Anthro as well, I had stuck with the same. We would, the three questions which come together, the 50 markers, I would try to finish in 35 to 40 minutes. This should be the aim. And keep the watch always close to you and never take your eyes off the watch also. Every 2 minutes, you have to keep checking where you're at, because the flow of the answer sometimes deviates you from the time management also. So I was very strict with my time. So continue doing that for your answer writing also.
Okay, so basically what she's saying is try your time management strategy before the exam itself, right? So once you do it in your test series, you will be able to implement the same in the actual exam. Yes, I hope I'm getting the crux of it, right?
Yes, sir.
Ishani, yeah. All right, so thank you, Ishani, for the session. Wonderful session. I hope it was beneficial for students. Okay. Now, in the meantime, we have a prelims mentorship program. So I'll just give you, I'll take 5 more minutes and I'll complete that session. And if any further students have any queries, they can stay back and they can ask. Okay. So Ishani, thank you for the session. It was
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
yeah,
sir, for having me.
yeah,
Very grateful to your guidance, and all the best, everybody. Hope you all benefit the same way I did. Thank you. Have a good day.
yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, now regarding the prelim mentorship program, it is for students who have not joined yet. Okay, we have a prelim mentorship program which has already started. We are already 3 weeks into the program. Okay, so these are our classroom toppers. And this year, we are definitely hoping the numbers will be more than 6. Okay, so Ishani Anand is All India rank 79 that you can see here, right? These are all topper testimonials. So please go through it. Now, when we talk about our achievements, so last year we had basically 62 students who cleared the prelims, okay, who were there in the prelim mentorship program. We had more number of students in the prelim mentorship program, but 62 students cleared the UPSC prelims 2024. Okay, and finally in the 2023 we had 6 students who cleared they were in the final list. Fine. Now, what is the need for the prelim mentorship program for students? So please understand this aspect कि every student's journey in prelims is different. Okay, they are facing unique obstacles. Their mental state would be different. Okay, the understanding level of the paper is different for each student. So you need the prelim mentorship program for the same. Okay, personalized prelim mentorship program you need so as to elevate your score in the prelims program. Okay, so if you just join any other program, that is a one size fits all approach, if you do, it will not work. Okay, so continuous interaction is needed with the faculty to improve your thinking, to improve on the examiner mindset. Okay, so that is the way the prelim mentorship program will help you. Fine. So now, why join this course? Yes. So generally, what we observe is either the institutes have directly prelims courses, prelims test series are there, or directly foundation courses are there. Okay, but there is nothing in the market which focuses specifically for prelims so extensively. Okay, so we do that exercise in the prelim mentorship program, and the questions that are asked from our prelim mentorship program, that is also very high. Okay, so one of the examples I can give you here, that is, you can see, right, collateral borrowing and lending obligation. So last year this was a question that was asked in UPSC 2024, and we had covered the same in the prelim mentorship program. Okay, so like that, we will be covering important themes. Similarly, you can see from the current affairs program also, membrane bioreactor we have covered, and the same question was asked in your 2024. Okay, so last year, basically 33 questions were asked from our prelims mentorship program of 2023 in the paper. Okay, so those many questions were there. So our hit rate is pretty high there. Fine. Now, personal mentorship program, yes. So you have to understand examiner mindset for clearing prelims, and for that you need proper personalized guidance there. Okay. And the static content also, students, what they do, they focus only on reading the reference book, but the focus should be on reading the current affairs, the static current affairs. That is more important from your UPSC prelim mindset. Okay. So our prelims mentorship classes as well as the current affairs classes both are modeled along PYQs. We discuss important topics, and we also tell you why those topics are important. Okay, that is which topics have been already asked in the PYQs from the same topic. Okay, so we have already done that exercise. If you want to go through our classes, you can do the same in YouTube. Okay, you can directly search it out and you can find it out. Okay, and we also provide personalized test review. That is after test is given. When students do reach out, we evaluate their mindset and we let them know, okay, these are the areas where their thinking needs to be improved. Okay. Now, if you do join the Prelim mentorship program, what do we expect from our students? The first and the foremost thing is attend the classes. This is important. You're supposed to attend the classes. As one of the students know, I just mentioned, the need is to unlearn the topic. Okay, you might have learned something in your preparations. You need to unlearn and relearn the topics, right? Then give necessary tests. You have to give the test, get continuous feedback from the faculties. Okay, that is important for your preparation to improve your score. Okay, attend the discussion classes also of each test and take the review of test and constantly interact with us. Okay, so we can clearly see we nearly have, for the last year, we had nearly 200 students, 200 plus students, out of which the students who continuously interacted with us is basically 30-35 in number. Okay, so all those students who interacted with us on a continuous basis, they cleared prelims, they have written mains also. Okay, so this constant interaction is needed, and Ishani was also one of them. Okay, she has been with us. She has joined the prelim mentorship program for the entire journey, 4 years of her journey. The same goes for the mains mentorship program also. She has joined in the mains mentorship program also in the same way. So the reason is that is the consistency level of her is very high. Okay, so you need to constantly interact with the faculty. Then only you will improve. Okay, just reading slides will not help. Fine. All right. So with that, yes. So here to enroll for the program. Okay, so if you want to enroll for the program, you can directly click on the link. You can take a screenshot of the same. Okay, you can take the screenshot of the same and you can enroll for the program. For queries, you can click on the link and you can have. And if you have any further queries regarding the program, directly feel free to reach out. Okay, in these two numbers, feel free to reach out regarding the prelims mentorship program. So currently we are focusing more on the prelims mentorship program. So just reach out on it. Okay, so the program has already started and 3 weeks. This is the third week that it is on. Fine. So please go through this, and if you have any further query, you can ask. Okay, and feel free to note down these numbers. Okay, note down these numbers and reach out to us. Fine. If you have any query, you can ask. The rest of you can leave. I think the session by Eshani was beneficial for you. I hope the session was beneficial and you were able to learn certain new aspects, right? Now, if you have any further queries, feel free to reach out to the office. And tomorrow you can meet us at 5 p.m. Okay, we will be there in the office at 5 p.m. It's there in Ashok Nagar. So you can come and you can visit us. Fine. So with that, I end the session. If you have any doubt, feel free to ask.